Good morning. My name is Derek Brown. I'm going to take you through a long, slow walk through the world of establishing and managing a revocable living trust. Now, this trust is a financial instrument, it's a document that helps manage your estate and your affairs while you're here, after you're gone, even after your spouse is gone, even after your heirs are gone. You can set this up to manage and carry out your wishes through many generations. Now, that whole process is only as good as your ability to manage, plan, and control the future, which you can't, right? You can't control the future. So what you do is you plan for it as best you can, and then you manage it while you're here as best you can, and then you let go. At some point, that's what we'll all have to do. But anyway, establishing the trust is actually the easy part. It should involve an attorney. Now, you're talking to a DIY guy who's saying, yeah, you probably want to use an attorney here. The documents are easy enough to draft yourself. What an attorney did for us is help us think about how to manage things in a way that allows us to be human and make lots of mistakes and fix them because we see them happening and can adjust and do better next time around. So anyway, I'll get to all of that. The key steps to establishing a trust are to first draft the trust document. A little point here. Now again, an attorney can be very helpful with that. They will draft a document based on templates that they know correspond to the laws of your state, which is worth paying for, I would say. Remember, I'm the DIY guy. I'm also a little cheap, but yeah, this is worth paying for. Now, once that document is drafted, you got to sign it and notarize it. All of that is pretty straightforward. Where the real work begins, that will last for the rest of your life, is in transferring assets into the trust. This is crucial because without the assets, you just got a document. You got a bucket with a hole in it. Now, even once you start pouring your assets into that bucket, you got to remember that the bucket's got a hole in it. That hole is you're not going to be able to dictate and control anything that happens after you're gone, but at least you set up as much as you can in the document and then you let be after that. So anyway, what you want to put in the trust are assets like real estate, financial accounts, and we'll say a little bit about that in a second once we start the walk here. And our walk is going to start pretty soon. The only other things I want to tell you is you want to give a lot of thought to who the trustees in your trust are, because these people have to have your trust and they have to have the physical ability to survive you, or else it doesn't make any sense to make them trustees. A revocable trust is what it suggests. Revocable means, hey, I can call this back. I can do away with this. You can do away with it if you decide that what you set up is not quite working for you. You can get rid of it. It's also not requiring any tax ID number. You just use your social security number. It's a private document. Doesn't have to be filed with the state. And again, you can create it yourself. You're better off using an attorney. That's from the DIY guy who's also cheap. All right, let's start walking through this. Now, I have selected key pages from the documents that comprise our trust, and I'm not going to have anything to say about all of them. I may flip through a lot of these. First thing we'll talk about is a will, which is actually part of the package provided by the attorney. It's not officially a part of the will itself. I hope that makes sense. You're going to get a will and a set of trust documents. Now, this will is called a pour over will. So if you're thinking about this bucket representing the trust, this bucket with a hole in it, once you expire, this will pours all of your assets into your trust according to the instructions laid out in the trust. Now, I think I got my entire will in here. Now, it's 10 pages. We're just going to move through all 10 of these. Our lawyer did a great job of setting this up, and we executed it. Now I have an official will. Now, this document is the actual trust document. Now, if you are looking down here, I hope you're not, but if you are, I've got keys that remind me of the length of these documents, so I'll know how fast to flip through them. Now, this document is about 90 pages, and what I'm showing you here is just a table of contents, just the first 5 pages to show you all of the detail that's laid out here to help you manage this thing, this trust that you have created to help manage your estate, your affairs while you're here, after you're gone, and for several generations beyond that. Now, a document that I use a lot is this summary of the trust. It first reminds me of the name of our trust. That's important when you start funding your trust, transferring assets into it. You want those assets transferred to this exact name, the exact name of your trust. And most of the asset transfers are going to require you to say when your trust was created. Your trust is also going to require you sometimes to provide the formal name. Here's our formal name of our trust. And I'm going to show you how I have used that name, which is what makes this document my go-to document. I come back to this one a lot, and I'll show you in a minute. There's another one that I use a lot. Let's flip through all 9 of these pages. Yeah, there's something spelled out here that I noticed today. You're going to have to name trustees, and these people are going to have to be people you trust, people who are reliable, people you think will survive you, because if everybody you name is not able to manage your trust, then your estate gets divided like this between all of these people. So anybody whose name is up here, you got to be satisfied that once you're gone, and all of the instructions that you establish and all the people that you give this authority to, once they're gone, this is how your stuff gets divided. It's useful to know all of this is very difficult to think about. It's very difficult to think about. All right, now this document is a certificate of trust. It kind of does what the summary I just showed you did. It gives you the name of the trust, the date it was established, and then the formal name of the trust, or the formal name of the people who established the trust. I think this also contains, let's see what else it contains. No, that's all it spells out now. So I don't use this one as much as I use that summary. All right, now here's the other document I use a lot. These are notes on funding the trust, the instructions provided by the attorney in the legal document, and the notes that I've compiled from what happened when I actually started doing this stuff. That's what makes this document muy importante. This is what happens when rubber meets the road. The first asset that I attempted to transfer, let's flip to it. I think it was my life insurance. I'll go to it and show you a couple of things about it. Yeah, it was my life insurance policy. I have a life insurance policy, a term life policy that will expire in 2031. So I've still got a few years with it. And what I was required to do here is complete this online form. And in this online form, I had to make my primary beneficiary our trust with this exact name from that summary document that I use, the date our trust was born, and the percentage assigned to it. Then the next thing I've got to do is take my wife, who was the primary beneficiary, I've got to make her the secondary or contingent beneficiary, because remember now, she is the trustee in the trust. So everything's going to go to her through the trust. But then the contingency is, if I revoke this revocable trust, if she revokes it, then this life insurance policy still comes to her because she's the contingent beneficiary. Now, all of that's good. Here's the mistake I made. On July 3rd, I put an electronic signature on a document that I was submitting electronically. That still makes sense to me. But what I found out was I can't do that. I had to submit an electronic document with an original signature, and that delayed the processing of my form by about 2 weeks, I think. Yes, I think here I am filling it out again. And then I had to make sure I signed it in ink, resubmitted it, and yeah, here's them telling me on July 6th, hey, you can't do what you did. You've got to resubmit this document. And in my mind, I see everything I'm doing, I'm working against the clock so I can get all this stuff done, because I don't want to die and not have anything outstanding. This is 10 years ago. It's a very stressful thing on your mind, just trying to get it all done. I got it done. I want to show it to you, but I have another document here. Now, here's some correspondence between us and our lawyer regarding the deed to our house. That was the next thing I had to tackle. Remember now, I'm against the clock. I said, okay, what do I do first? Well, let me put the life insurance in the trust. Then the next thing is, all right, well, let me put the house in the trust. Now, let me make a short story shorter here. You don't want to see all this gibberish from the lawyer. Here's a document saying, all right, your beneficiary has been changed for your life insurance policy. The Brown Family Joint Revocable Trust is now the primary beneficiary. Keisha Michelle Lanier Brown is now the contingent beneficiary. Sorry about all the complication. It took until July 18th. So it took 2 weeks to do something that might have gotten done in a day. Because of that signature situation that I wasn't told about up front. That's just not the way the world works. They don't always tell you what you got to do until you do it the way you're not supposed to do it. And when you're trying to get all of this set up before you pass away, that can get you. All right, so anyway, next thing. The deed to our house. Now here is the amended deed to our house that has been filed and accepted by the county we live in, Cobb County. We had to file what's called a corrective quitclaim deed. The correction had to be made to a mistake that we made back in 2011 when we first got married. We didn't know anybody in Marietta when we got married, so I wanted my wife's name to be on our house. I filed a quitclaim deed, and my wife witnessed it. And then we were told after the fact, if she's the beneficiary, she can't be the witness. That's a conflict of interest. Okay, so we had to file a corrective quitclaim deed to correct the lack of signatures and to retitle the deed to the formal name of our trust, which was established on May 8th, 2017. Now, all the correspondence that we flipped through from our lawyer tapped us on the wrist and said, we did this wrong. What we're supposed to do is file two separate deeds. The first deed had to correct the lack of signatures. It had to have a witness who was not my wife, right? And then it had to be retitled to the trustees of our trust, me and my wife, and signed by both of us. Now, what you're going to see here is I signed this document. This needed to be signed by both of us. All right. It's an error of commission. I did it to get it done, did it wrong. Okay, the worst thing that happens here is if we try to sell the house, we're probably going to have to sign another deed that both of us can sign, and that might cause a delay in the sale. Well, cool. See, the real worst thing is to not get this done and then expire from this earth. So we got that part done. I hope you're appreciating here that there's a lot of ticky-tack and dotting of the I's and crossing of the T's and a lot of gotcha games being played by people who make money from correcting these mistakes. And did I say that? Yes, I said that. I said that. All right, let's keep going. That's just another copy of the deed. Nothing to see there. Now the next thing that comes up here, oh yeah, names. All the names and fiduciaries in our trust, which include our daughter. We have to include people who we excluded, just so if they come up and lay claim, it's spelled out, okay, you don't have any claim. Now, why they're being excluded, that's beyond the scope of this, but let's move on. Let's move on. We had to establish one of our trustees as the guardian for our daughter. We had to establish two trustees. This is Keisha's trustee. This is my trustee. And here are other trustees who are spelled out. Now, here's something you got to be careful with. We talked to all of these people about what was going on 10 years ago when all of this was established, and probably haven't talked to any of them about any of it since. And these people have their own lives. I am transparent about how much of this I forget. I can imagine they don't have our trust on their minds. And that's a hole in the bucket. That's another hole that's in that bucket that we're pouring all these assets into. This stuff is only as good as our awareness of our human fallibility. As imperfect as we are, there's always going to be a hole in this bucket. You're just trying to put as much water in it as you can. Yeah, I think that's the metaphor I want to use there. But let's keep going. Let's keep going. We're supposed to get this done in under 20 minutes. All right. Now, here's the thing that I have worked on a lot as well. I am an author and I am a digital citizen. So most of what I have created is digital. It's in the cloud. It's on the internet. And I've got to spell those things out because these are still new things. I don't know how to convey to my wife that most of the wealth our family is going to generate may happen 70 years from now through our daughter's control of the things that her daddy has written and created. I've got a blog here that's been viewed 500,000 times, right? But I'm still an unknown author who's written a lot of stuff, and I memorialize it and make it manifest through that blog and its companion podcast that I used to host on 2 different sites. Well, I don't host it on Libsyn anymore. It's only on Blueberry. Now, when this document's in my wife's hands and she goes and conducts due diligence on these things, she'll see that this version of the podcast still exists and that this one is gone. She'll see that my YouTube channel still exists. She'll see my Facebook page, this LinkedIn page. I got hacked 6 or 7 years ago, so this doesn't exist anymore. I've got stores on eBay. I used to have one on Amazon. The Amazon store is not there anymore. These things are still listed. Worst thing that happens is my wife will go and check for them and see that they're there or see that they're not there. Here's a store where I sell all of my learning content. I had a second store. That second store is not there anymore. I have mailing lists that I use to handle my marketing. That's worth knowing about. I want to make sure that that's utilized to generate this wealth that's probably going to happen 70 years after I'm gone. All right, this finishes up that document. Yeah, I used to own a lot of internet domain names. I think I only have 2 now. I have the name of my blog, reachthentteach.com, and I had one called ubp.com, which was the biggest and most valuable asset I ever had in my life. I sold it. I used it to pay for the life that me and my wife and daughter established a long time ago. It was well worth it. It's a great story. I'll have to tell it to you some other time, but that makes the internet domain name catalog at least worth mentioning, even though I don't have any active names anymore. All right, now let's get ready to close here. Now, financial accounts, brokerage accounts. I have learned that those don't have to be made part of your trust, because we live in a digital age now where a login and password are sufficient keys to unlock those assets. So me and my wife both generate a document like this with all of our accounts that we know and the numerous changes to the passwords for those accounts. We keep up with them as best we can. I don't keep up with mine very well. My last update was in March 2021. Some of these don't change, some of them do. And think about, okay, if I'm not here and my wife is trying to access my checking account, for example, the proper password is there. When I last updated this document, even banks weren't forcing you to authenticate yourself in 2 ways. Now almost all of them are. So when I update this, I've got to make sure I come up with a way to make foolproof and fail-safe my wife's ability to access this account, even if she's forced to do 2-factor authentication. Now, the way I'm probably going to have to do that is I'll need to give her a physical debit card to my account and give her her own login, because the only way she will be able to access these accounts as me is she's probably going to have my phone. My phone is the second way that I authenticate myself. I would like to think she's going to have my phone, but since I'm thinking about it now, it might be better for her to have her own independent access to my account. I don't know how I didn't think of that, right? But this is the human fallibility that we have to deal with every day in managing and stewarding life itself, and especially these plans. You can never think of everything. I thought of this morning. It's like, yeah, I've got to get her independent access to the account, because I can't depend on knowing that she's going to have command of my phone. Now, a secondary means of access for me is this computer that's sitting right here. This computer is as old as our daughter, and it's robust and industrial strength. And as long as it's here, if Keisha's sitting in this chair and she's trying to access my account, she's going to get in, because this computer is trusted by my bank. Now, I know my wife, she's probably going to try to get rid of my computer first, because I got all this stuff in this office that drives her crazy. But I have begged her, you want to keep this. This is going to make your life a lot easier. Now, I'm still here, so I will try to make it even easier than that. But hanging on to this computer is going to make her life a lot easier. She's going to watch this video, right? So I'm saying this over and over. Man, keeping this computer is going to make your life a whole lot easier. All right, I've said too much, but hopefully I have given you a real world overview of what this looks like in its creation and in its management, because The two of them together form one of those nice 3-strand cords that cannot easily be broken. But we're still dealing with a man-made process that is attempting to hold water in our palm, and none of us have ever been able to do that, right? We just do the best we can until it all evaporates. All right, thank you for listening, and look forward to fellowshipping and managing these things together. There's strength in numbers, and just knowing one other person, one other family that's trying to manage all of this might make our load a lot easier, because the repetitions are useful because of the level of detail involved here and the level of forgetfulness that befalls all of us, man. Anyway, thanks for listening. I'm signing off here, and I hope this has been helpful and real. Peace.